have for you today is that do you consider Wuthering Heights to be a love story, or does it seem more like a revenge story to you? Now, because you know the story of the novel, most part of it you already know now. So here you will have to tell me that what do you think? Is it a love story, or is it a revenge story, or is it something like a love gone sour? Okay, because what Emily Bronte had written, and just remember the time when the novel was written. It was written in the year, when was it published? Do you
18,
remember that?
1847.
Huh?
1847.
17?
1847.
Yeah,
1847.
yes, see, Radhika remembers that. Yeah, in this way you have to remember, and then you have to even remember the social circumstances, social scenario at that time. What were the, who was ruling, what was the political background when the novel was written? Okay, so these things are also very important while deciding that how, where do you place this novel? Okay, we call Heathcliff as an enigmatic character. So what do you mean by this term enigmatic? And how is Heathcliff enigmatic character? Okay, then the elder Catherine is called a fiery woman, wild woman. So what did the people believe at that time? What was it? Where does this point lead to? Wildness, what is it? In the female character, when we say that some female character is wild in nature, so what does that mean? So Heathcliff is enigmatic personality. Catherine, elder Catherine, is wild. And then the next generation, when we see Linton Earnshaw and Hareton, these are the next generation one, and young Catherine. So what is the difference between the first generation people and the second generation people? When we talk about the social scenario at the time when elder people were there, and they were young, and they had their own love stories. So how those love stories were being affected by or influenced by the social background of that time? It was absolutely feudal society, agrarian based, agriculture based, and land based, no industries, right? And during that time, Earnshaw brings a foundling, an abundant child who used to live in a city. The city is a product of industrial revolution. It is something new that has come. So what I'm leading you to think is that when industrial revolution came in England for the first time, the new class of society had developed, and there were many abundant children, there were many orphaned children during that time, right? And they were known as foundlings. This we saw in Tom Jones also. Now these rich people, they used to have mercy, pity on these children, and they used to adopt these children. And these children, how they became agent of change in the society. How Heathcliff changes the entire faith of two families, two established families, Earnshaw family and the Linton family. It is Heathcliff who is, otherwise they are living a very complacent life. Complacent life means they don't have to worry about anything. They own quite an amount of land, and Earnshaws, they're happy with their with being a landowner, and they are very crude people, as we saw. They're very rustic and living a very wild life. Okay, Catherine is very wild in nature. That means she knows no constraints. She is just like a, because during that time gender was stereotyped. Girls had to behave in a particular way, and Catherine does not behave in that particular way. The girl should. You know, this concept of decent girls not dressing in a proper way, not laughing loudly, not speaking some abusive words, kind of constraints were there, and they were considered good for the girls, that they belong to a good sophisticated family if they behave in a particular way, and if they just are not refined, and they are passionate and impulsive by nature, so this was not considered to be an appreciative quality in girls. Okay, so Ashi, have you joined the class? You just lost connection, lost the network. So are you
Yes, ma'am,
back?
I've rejoined. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sure that you didn't miss the point.
Ma'am, I didn't hear you in the past 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay, we were talking gender stereotypes. That was the period when the girls or boys, they had to behave in a particular way to make themselves acceptable in the society. Right? So how to laugh, how to move about, how to talk, what kind of language to be used, these all things told about or spoke a lot about the sophistication of the family, how she comes from a refined family and she has refined manners. These things carried a lot of value. And when I say that she had a wild nature, that means she was very impulsive. Whatever she thought, she used to do, right? Very wild, that means a fiery. She didn't feel any hesitation in expressing her anger, her love, or whatever feelings, whatever impulses she had. So that is what Catherine was, and this type of quality was not appreciated during that time. Got it? Now Heathcliff, again Heathcliff also comes from a very the kind of a background that I told you in the beginning, that he is an foundling, so he had also no opportunity education, he has got no education, and he also is a someone who, yeah, he is also someone that who has learned no manners. He doesn't behave in a refined way. Then again, he is also very passionate and very enigmatic, means when the love hate, you don't know where you start loving him and you don't know where you start hating that person. So he is the one who evokes very strong emotions in the person whomever he interacts with. Okay, so hence these two wild people, they coming together since their childhood and then falling in love. So the kind of love that they have for each other is something that turns out to be more destructive rather than constructive. See how it destroys two families. Okay, Heathcliff, Catherine is in love with this person, but she is not ready to marry this person, Heathcliff. She prefers to marry Edgar, Edgar
Lynn.
Linton, because she is impressed. She has lived there for 5 weeks at Linton's place, Grang, Thrushcross Grang. She has lived there for 5 weeks and she's impressed by that. And so when Edgar falls in, and Catherine is a kind of a woman that every man wants to fall in love with, right? So when Edgar is impressed by the beauty of the beauty of Catherine, and the wild nature of Catherine, that
Wit.
is very attractive to Edgar, but he at the same time is very refined, and before him Catherine wants to behave in a very refined fashion. That is why there is a she, you know, shouts at Ellen, Mrs. Ellen also,
Nelly.
because she is in a through her behavior she's kind of exposing her real nature, and Catherine does not want to tell real nature to Edgar because she wants to impress Edgar by her beauty and everything, and she wants to be the member of that family. She is looking forward for her own fortune, and at the same time she is in love with Heathcliff. But she knows that with Heathcliff she is going to get nothing, because Hindley has almost made him his servant. He has moved to servant quarters and he is living with servants there. So he has been demoted from being an adopted son of Earnshaw, Mr. Earnshaw, and now he is a servant. So this complicated situation of Heathcliff is the reason that why Catherine does not want to marry, right, this person, Heathcliff, though she is in love with Heathcliff. And even after marriage, when Heathcliff, after so many years, comes back to her, and he is expressing his own emotions and feelings, that he is still in love with Catherine. Catherine also admits that yes, she too is still in love with Heathcliff. Heathcliff is the only person whom she had been in love with in her entire life. So the question that 21st century reader would ask is that if she is in love with Heathcliff, why does she marry Edgar? Right?
Lifestyle.
Yes, Sashi, you want to say something?
Due to lifestyle change. She has been
Yeah.
living in a nice family, rich family, and she can't transform her family conditions with Heathcliff.
Yes, see, there's nothing wrong with her family condition. She still is a very rich person. Shaw's, they have such a long, they are feudal lords there. But the only thing is that though they have got a lot of land, and though she is the daughter of such a family who are, but they are not refined. So this industrial revolution had brought something called refinedness. People had started appreciating refinedness. Okay, so they have some London manners, you may say. London is a city, and they are living in a countryside, Yorkshire. So Yorkshire people would like to be like London people in the similar way, as the people who are living in smaller towns would like to imitate the people who are living in metros. Right? So in this way, Catherine also wants to promote herself to the social class, that upward mobility. She wants that. It is never money. Here the question is not about rich and poor. Earnshaws are rich. Thrushcross, these people are rich, both families. But it is just, the thing that you have to remember is that, like industrial revolution and other political changes that were taking place during that period, the travel that was there, people moving abroad and traveling, bringing a lot of experiences from other cultures, and mixing their culture with these other cultures and making themselves remarkable, different from the normal kind of people who were there in England at that time. Okay, so this is now, let me show the presentation, and let's move there and see the theme of the novel again. It may take some time, just wait. Can you see? Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. This. No, this also we had done last time, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Again, this we had done. Yeah. So this is what I just explained you. Within the limited setting, the
Ma'am,
society.
it is not
Yeah.
visible to me.
Is it visible to everyone else?
Yes, ma'am.
Radhika, then there's some network problem. Just wait for some time, and I think it will be visible to you.
Okay, ma'am.
Right? Or your classmates are going to click the pictures of these slides, and this will be posted in your WhatsApp group. So from there again, you can look into it. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
You are taking pictures of these slides, so this will be visible in your WhatsApp group also. If it's not visible now, don't worry about that. Okay. Now see, within the limited setting of the novel itself, it describes society as divided into two opposing worlds. Just remember, these two opposing worlds are not rich and poor worlds. It is the way of living. Wuthering Heights, that is the ancestral home of Earnshaws. Yes, someone is saying something. Himanshi? Yeah. Okay. So, Wuthering Heights is the ancestral home of Earnshaws, and Thrushcross Grang is the estate of Linton, very refined people who have exposure to different cultures, and they have done a lot of travels, and they are the part of the industrial revolution, and so they are very different from the people, ordinary people of Yorkshire. Okay. So Wuthering Heights is a rustic and wild world. Elements of nature, whether it is people, whether it's buildings, or whether it's the moor. So this name, Wuthering, itself suggests atmospheric tumult, disturbance. The entire atmosphere is just so stormy. There's a lot of movement there. And it's very strong also at the same time. The house is very strong. And it's got narrow windows. That means no contact with the outer world. Jutting cornerstones. It's very fortified, just like a fort, very strong way it's built. So no external force can batter upon it. It can make any impact on it. So it's, what does Wuthering Heights stand for? It stands for wild, untamed, disordered. Chaos is there, and very hard. No sophistication. On the other hand, Grang shows the very Thrushcross Grang. It shows a more civilized atmosphere, and it's controlled. It has got certain manners that it has to follow. The house inside is also, when they meet Linton children during their childhood, Heathcliff and Catherine, they notice that the house is very neat, it's very orderly, and there's so much of light. No narrow windows. Like Wuthering Heights, there are narrow windows, so the external, whatever changes are taking place in the world, they cannot reach inside the house. But here, there's abundance of light. They have knowledge. Okay. Now see, Hindley and Catherine Earnshaw. When we compare these two characters, they are brother sisters. They both have same nature. They are very wild. That is why Hindley does not like the coming of his. He is not ready to accept Heathcliff in his place. So they are very wild, uncontrollable, just like they are Wuthering Heights. On the other hand, Edgar and Isabella, who are the children of a Grang house, the Grang estate, they are very refined and civilized. Edgar and Catherine, they marry. That is refined one, and the unrefined, a very wild character, Catherine. In the similar way, in case of marriage of Isabella and Heathcliff, Heathcliff is wild. Isabella belongs to Linton family. And this marriage, both these marriages, they are ill-fated. They both fail right from the beginning. Catherine does not love Edgar. Isabella is not treated well by Heathcliff. Heathcliff is taking revenge upon Linton family for being more attractive to Catherine. Okay. And these all four people of these two pairs, they are all associated with the values of their home, whatever home gives them. Home has given wilderness to someone and sophistication to other. Catherine is very wild, she's willful, she's strong, while Edgar we see is very, at that time when men were very soft, they were called to be effeminated, behaving like a woman, behaving like girls, having a lot of female, because all softness was considered to be feminine. Even it's now considered to be a feminine quality. Men have to be strong, men have to be cruel, men have to be fighting. Such is the image in gender stereotypes. So these couple, apas mein, they are unable to interact fully with each other, husband and wife. And since they cannot interact with each other, they cannot have smooth relationship, so they cannot achieve being complete individuals. Since they are unable to even guess or perceive each other's true needs, they do not understand, they do not try to understand each other. And thus their marriage or marital life is very disturbed, stormy. Okay, so this was the comparison between the two families and how the family values they are carrying with them, and when they are coming together, how their marriage fails. Now, when we compare mother and daughter, there is one Catherine Earnshaw and the other is Catherine Linton, or in short, we call her Kathy Linton. That is how we avoid getting confused. These two women, the mother-daughter, they are very different from each other because their family life is very different. If you remember, Catherine's father, he didn't love her because always she was misbehaving, being a very wild kind of girl, and always running here and there, and being very impulsive and passionate. This was not considered to be good qualities in girl. So her father always spanked her. There's a dialogue in the novel. Nay, Kathy, I cannot love thee. Thou art worse than thy brother. Go, say thy prayers, child, and ask God's pardon. Even God is not going to pardon you. You don't behave like a girl. Be a good girl. I doubt thy mother. See the dialogue that the father is saying. I doubt thy mother. That means you are not my child. Your mother has conceived you from somewhere else. I doubt thy mother, and I must rue the day. I weep upon that day. I get frustrated about the day we ever reared thee. How did we bring you up? So this is the hatred of the father for the daughter. So Nelly is, if you remember, Nelly is a domestic help of both these families, and Lockwood is the one who is staying at this estate. He's a tenant and he's a traveler, and Nelly is telling the story of the Catherine family to Lockwood. So in this way, there are two narrators in this novel. Okay, Lockwood is there and Nelly is there. So when Nelly is describing how Catherine was, so these are the words. She was a wild, wicked slip. Slip, how did she appear on this earth? Okay, there's some, trouble that would have taken place in God's home, and she slipped here on this planet. Wild, wicked slip. That she never seemed as content as when she was being scolded. She constantly needed scolding by her parents in order to be disciplined. Okay. And even Hindley did not treat his sister well. She got ill treatment from her brother also because he was equally wild. He would not respect his sister at home. So such was the upbringing of Catherine Earnshaw. That during her childhood, either she was neglected by her parents or ill-treated by her father and brother. Mother had died very early, And she was also one who was tortured by the father constantly, so she was very weak. So Catherine does not get treated well by Hindley, and so what she does, she gets close to Heathcliff, and then she falls in love with Heathcliff. And later when we see that when they are grown up, Catherine is married to Linton, Edgar Linton, and Hindley is married a man. He is, after education, he married and he came with his wife here to this Wuthering Heights. And then after death of his wife, he gets into drinking problem. He becomes alcoholic. Well, wife Frances dies. At that time also the sister does not come to help brother, because there's no attachment between brother and sister. Catherine observes that how Heathcliff is now taking revenge upon Hindley. He's ill-treating him, and he's ill-treating his son, and trying to bringing up in a way that is constantly humiliating to Hindley, and he's taking control over whole of the property of Hindley. That gambling game he enters with Hindley, and then winning over the entire property of Wuthering Heights. She observes all these things, but still she does not come to save her brother from Heathcliff, because she still has that passionate attraction towards Heathcliff. Now compare this Catherine Earnshaw with her own daughter Cathy Linton. Cathy Linton grew up in a family where she enjoyed love of her father, a doting father she had, Edgar. Edgar Linton was a doting father of Cathy. He just showered all her love and the loving atmosphere she had at Linton family while growing up. So this is what the love of family can do to the child, and how hatred from a family can destroy the child. So Cathy Linton got love in her family, Thrushcross gang. She and her father, they were very close to each other. And Edgar as a father was a very protective father, and he knew that Wuthering Heights does not have a good impact upon the children. So he tried to keep Cathy Linton away from Wuthering Heights. Okay, so when Linton falls ill, Cathy is a very devoted daughter. She takes care of all his father's illness, though finally father dies and she is left fatherless, and then she is tortured by Heathcliff. What kind of relationship, just think about what kind of relationship Heathcliff has with Cathy. He marries his own son to Cathy and then takes revenge upon him. Cathy did not have any brothers or sisters. She had no siblings. And, as a reader, we can easily imagine that if she had brothers and sisters, how much love she would have given to her brother and sister, because she was such a devoted daughter to her father. Very soft, delicate, devoted girl, refined in her manners. So Catherine Earnshaw and Cathy Linton, they were poles apart from each other. So today, what thinking points you got? Just think about as I began the lecture with, think about the love that existed between Catherine Earnshaw and Hindley. Sorry, Catherine Earnshaw and Heathcliff. Think about that. And how did this passionate relationship bring the downfall of the two families? Right? And respectable manners of these two, all these characters, and especially Catherine Earnshaw and Cathy Linton. And next we shall be continuing with this in our next class. If you want to discuss something here, then we still have 1 or 2 minutes. Any question or any point that you want to bring across? Does it seem like you are watching some movie when you are reading this novel? Then
Yes, ma'am.
it's a movie, and if you would have watched the movie, then also, though watching movie will not make the same impact as the reading of the novel will, because words they create a different world with the writer. But then even if you watch the movie, at least you know about the characters and the main events of the story, plot of the story. Any character that you love in the story or you hate in the story?
Hindley.
Hmm? Ashi?
Hindley.
Hindley.
Yes, ma'am.
What is that emotion that comes
Hate.
into?
Matlab, he was not a fine character. He put all his frustration over Heathcliff.
Yeah, I couldn't get it. What did you say just now?
He wasn't a
He?
fine character. He put all his frustration over Heathcliff.
Yeah. Okay. And what about the most prominent character here, Heathcliff? What do you think about Heathcliff?
He somehow got into the beam. I don't know about.
No comments yet. Okay, let's wait for a few more lectures and then we would analyze the character of Heathcliff, because Heathcliff and Catherine, I'm sure they are the major characters, and we need to have some views on these two characters. Hindley, I know, is very cruel, but at the same time, just think about that when you are a child and your parent brings some other child at home and scolds you and loves that child, how would you feel? Think about that situation also. I know Heathcliff Hindley is very cruel to the other person, and his even he doesn't become friendly after years of living together. Develops no bond with Heathcliff, though Heathcliff is younger to him. But at the same time, you see, Hindley doesn't treat his sister also well. So he's not definitely he's not a good person, because he doesn't treat his sister also, a real sister, younger sister. So it's true. But as far as his hatred for Heathcliff is concerned, just think about it, that how would a biological son, real biological son, feel about adopted son? And because the father is so raw, Mr. Ranshaw, he drinks a lot, doesn't treat his own son well, and then suddenly he brings one day another child. So I think it would have been natural, at least during early days or months, to be very inimical to the adopted child. But later also he doesn't develop any bond. That cruelty increases, it doesn't decrease anytime.
He wasn't
So
even good to
more
his own
business.
son.
Yes, yes, Sashi?
He wasn't even good to his own son.
He wasn't good to his own son also. He fails as a father, he fails as a son, he fails as a brother. Okay, so definitely true. Good analysis. Nice. Think about the novel till we meet again. Okay, we stop the class here. Enjoy your day.
Thank you, ma'am.
And have we taken
Thank you,
a
ma'am.
picture of the class so you can switch on all your videos and